91% of organizations are looking to hire a system admin or system programmer in the next 2 years.
If companies are concerned about skills, they also need to have hiring slots.
Cloud-based computing and mainframe.
A lot of demand coming up in the market.
It's very, very exciting.
Hi, thank you for tuning into this Mainframe Insights video. My name is Hunter Johnson. I'm a product marketing engineer at Broadcom. Today we've got an excellent discussion ahead of us on mainframe skills and talent and how organizations can not only attract that talent, but retain it long term. I'm joined by two absolute icons in the industry. We've got John Campbell from Triton Consulting, and we have Toine Michielse from Broadcom.
Yeah, thank you, Hunter. I'm currently a senior consultant for Triton Consulting in the UK, but prior to that, I spent over 40 years working with IBM, and I was involved in version 1, release 1, helping those early adopters migrate to DB2 or to get to DB2, and help them design some high-performance applications. But probably the bulk of my career over the last 20 years has been working with customers, providing consulting services, as well as having one foot in development. So I spent a lot of time with customers understanding their pain points and trying to drive incremental improvements into DB2 to make them more productive and more safe.
Thanks, John. Yes, I know you very well. We go back a long, long time. But before that, I've been pretty much doing everything that needed the help of John. I was an application programmer, I was a DBA, I was a system engineer, and in that role, I actually got to meet John. And currently at Broadcom, I'm very, very happy to be senior manager of a bunch of really, really talented and skilled client service consultant. And I'm very happy to be here with my old friend John here.
It's addictive, isn't it, the mainframe?
Oh yes.
It's quite the
Definitely.
obsession.
Yes.
I tell you, we're all very fortunate to work on mainframe. Such a powerful platform that runs the business transactions of today's economy. And it's hard not to talk about skills when you think about the mainframe. And you guys have been around, entrenched in customer sites. You've seen the evolution of the platform through the years. Let's take that back to the skills angle a little bit. How are you seeing mainframe skills evolve through the years? And more importantly, what are you seeing organizations doing now to prepare for the future? Are you seeing a lot of movement there in the preparation?
So let's start with the skills and how they've developed. When I started in the mainframe, you needed to be a deep, deep, deep technical specialist. You would be looking for all the bits, all those parameters that you could use to tweak like the last drop of performance, reducing the cost. Now, there has been a huge evolution in the mainframe. We've seen an evolution from, let's say, IMS to DB2, making the whole process of designing databases far, far more easy. And I'm not saying that you don't need any skills, but the skills that you need today have changed. And I think that's a good thing. How about you, John?
Well, I agree with you. I think the skills required today on the mainframe are different. I think you have to be consultative. You have to have good communication skills, as well as having technical skills. And if the mainframe is going to thrive in a particular organization, then basically you have to work with the application teams. First of all, you've got to educate them about what the functions and features are. And in some cases that doesn't happen. But also you've got to help them engage on their projects so they're successful. And so I've seen a number of cases where this has been immensely successful. But on the other hand, there are some cases where people put almost like a barrier to entry by, making it difficult to get new applications going, these obstructions. And at the end of the day, the application teams have to deliver business functions, and they have to deliver them as quickly as possible with quality. So it's important to engage and to communicate with the application teams. So a modern DBA systems programmer doesn't just have to have technical skills, they have to be able to collaborate and they have to be able to communicate.
Absolutely. Yeah, we see that all the time. On the Broadcom side, with the skills development programs we have, the mentorship aspect of that carries a lot of weight, and we see that on our customer sites too. A lot of our customers bringing in newer mainframe talent to work under their existing senior level mainframe talent to kind of create that mentorship environment so that knowledge transfer happens. That sounds a lot like what you're talking about, John, with taking the time to not only meet deliverables and put things into market, but to have time to allow for the mentorship to happen as well is really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I used to say, I think it used to take about 2 to 5 years to get a good mainframe DBA, like systems programmer. But in order to shorten that, you've got to have the mentoring where it has to be open and an open relationship here where the objective of the mentor is to make the other person productive as soon as possible. And I don't know if Toine will make some comments here. You have to know these bits and pieces, but then you need to know enough to get to critical mass, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's like you put an hour in to start with to get an hour's worth of work, but you're hoping in months and years you put 1 hour in and you get 10 hours worth of work out.
That's exactly it.
We're seeing also on the Broadcom side that learning that is available at one's own pace is also highly consumed. And we're seeing a lot of success in that with web-based training, instructor-led training courses lend a lot of credibility to adding education to those users. And just to kind of shift gears a little bit, we hear commonly the mainframe skills gap. There is a challenge there, but at the same time, the opportunity is huge and the willingness from these young learners are huge as well. Futurum put out a research study that was published in combination with IBM, 21st Century, and Broadcom. And that study noted that 91% of organizations are looking to hire a system admin or system programmer in the next 2 years. A lot of demand coming up in the market. It also surveyed universities. Out of those universities surveyed, 83% of those students are interested in learning mainframe. Half of that 83% have already applied to mainframe internships. So there's a huge willingness in the market for these organizations to pick up mainframe talent, which is why I sort of struggle with the mainframe skills gap terminology. There's no opportunity gap at all. There really are learners out there who are ready to learn the platform. It's just all about the organizations nurturing that, moving forward and making plans to make that happen.
I compare it to things that I heard years ago where companies were complaining they couldn't find COBOL programmers. They're just asking the wrong question. They should be looking for programmers. The language you learn in a few days, the language is irrelevant. And of course, with more experience, you get more proficient, more productive. But it's the same with mainframe skills. And yes, hiring a sysadmin, that is a challenge because that requires a certain period of time and experience to become a very effective, efficient, and proficient sysadmin. But with what John said, being able to mentor them, having the ability to have free education, consumable whenever they like, I think that's very important because there's only so many hours in the day and there's always this push for more and more productivity, right? So being able to do that when you want, I think all those things help. And yes, you will not be able to have a sysprog or a DBA with all of the design experience in 2 days. But giving them the chance to learn, to mentor, is not a problem to find the skills because you're right. People are interested in mainframe. They're interested in a career in IT and in today's world with the combination of cloud-based computing and mainframe, it's very, very exciting. And there's a lot to learn for people who are willing.
Then of course the other opportunity is to cross-train people, where people have learned in other platforms and then cross-train them onto the mainframe. And what I find very often is once they've been on the mainframe, they don't want to go back to the open systems. They want to stay on the mainframe because it's more challenging for them, it's more exciting. And this goes back to an organization that's vibrant, right? Where new applications are coming into the mainframe, they're modernizing the mainframe. So that's why there's this great opportunity now. You can either cross-train people or bring students in with the right aptitude and actually grow them.
Just to think about the advancements of the platform over the past 5 years to the past decade. There's advancements in automation and development, the way application development is taking place. How is that changing the skills dynamic? Should that change the way learners look at their study areas? And what would you suggest to a learner who may be interested in mainframe in their trajectory? What should they really focus on?
Looking at modernized IT processes by using technologies that may be originating from distributed systems. And I'm thinking, orchestration like through Jenkins pipelines and including that in the mainframe area. What that allows people to do is focus more on the job at hand rather than on how to execute a task. When I grew up, I had to, code my JCL by hand. Now, do we still do that today? No, we don't. We've written automation to generate the JCL, far more robust than I could do it by hand. And I think we see more and more of those situations that will enable the staff to focus on what they need to do rather than how to do it. And I think that's only going to continue. How do you see that, John?
I mean, if we go back 10 years ago, it was almost embarrassing that, people were using these new development environments and you'd find all of these options for SQL Server or Oracle, whatever the database happened to be, and there was nothing there for DB2 on the mainframe. And so if you put yourself in the shoes of an application designer or architect, why isn't DB2 available on my development platform? So you have seen a really positive move now with people developing, end-to-end DevOps solutions. So it makes life easy for the application developer so they can get on taking that business logic and programming it and implementing it, as opposed to have to learn all of these bits and pieces, which, are probably quite foreign to them, but those are side things, whereas the real job is to develop the application. So certainly one area that's been very positive is about, DevOps, and particularly if you can go end-to-end to the mainframe and make it disciplined, make it productive, and allow those developers to make it as easy to write something against DB2 on the mainframe as it is against any other particular platform.
And on top of that, it's a form of simplification that will also help. Right? And you mentioned, the automation and allowing the app developer to be more productive. Now think of certain phases in the development process, like testing. I mean, sometimes testing gets, sort of like pushed behind, which is absolutely not what you want to do, right? You want testing to be the most prominent thing that you do in your process. Now, if you have the ability by automation, by applying DevOps processes, to not only automate it, but to force that it actually takes place, you also increase the quality of the product, but at the same time, you relieve that developer of a lot of precious time that he can then use to get better trained.
So for example, in what I would call quite a sophisticated DevOps process, having quality gates in there that are actually going to check the SQL, DML and the DDL, that you're using the right options and flagging things that are exceptions. So rather than have what I used to remember it as paralysis by analysis, that everything had to go past a DBA, everything had to be hand checked. What you want to actually do is have these gates in there which says, well, if you're following the standards and guidelines, you just let this thing flow through. But if there's an exceptions, then you go for a review process to do it. That's one example. But ultimately then, what I've just said, it means less problems are going to back end, less problems are in production, the service is better in production, and the image of the mainframe and the image of those business applications is going to be a whole lot better. And therefore, once people have had a positive experience, they're more likely to put more applications on the mainframe. But I think also linking to that then, you see, the sign of a mature IT person, I believe, is looking for that continuous improvement, not in yourself, but in your organization and in the process. So if there's the upmarket DBA, the upmarket developer these days, communication, I stressed on that. But I also think you're also looking for some continuous improvement in yourself, the process, in the organization. And when you have that sort of culture established, it makes a huge difference. On the other hand, I went to a customer about 4 or 5 years ago, and they made the mistake of asking me to talk about new application features. And one half of the room was totally delighted because they had all these ideas, and they were application development people, designers, about how they could use these new features in DB2. And in the corner were the exact opposite of the people I'm advocating, who basically hadn't told them about the features, and all they saw it as more work for them to do. So that's the latter half group of people are the people where people don't want to come to the mainframe. They're making it more difficult. And on the other hand, if you can communicate to those application developers and get them excited, they will come up with the use cases. So I just want to emphasize again, being able to communicate is a really good skill for a consultant, but also inside our customers with their DBA and systems programmers and developers. If you can communicate, it makes a huge difference in terms of spreading the word, spreading good messages, and also, going back to how we went full circle, going back to that mentor apprenticeship. If that mentor is really good at communicating, then that young apprentice is going to pick up on it a lot sooner, isn't he? He's going to make less mistakes and be productive more quickly.
It instills a level of confidence too, that they can make a mistake. They will get corrected in a positive manner, and they'll learn from that. So
don't make it twice, though.
Just don't make it twice.
The same mistake twice.
That's right. So just before we wrap, we've talked a lot about organizations and things they can be doing to attract new talent, like lowering the barrier to entry with these new tools that are available. We talked about looking for soft skills and trainability and some other aspects as well. But what are some other things organizations can be doing to look for new talent, to build resiliency for themselves?
Well, one thing I think there has to be is it comes partly back to hiring. Okay. If you're hiring people, then college students are more likely to take classes in mainframe subjects. And therefore it's very important therefore that, if companies are concerned about skills, they also need to have hiring slots. Because you've got to try and build that succession pipeline. And obviously then the mentoring and things comes in. But it's very important to have hiring slots in there and to go out to universities and try and recruit the talent. And better still, from a vendor perspective, actually offer classes at the college, help develop classes that can be taught at the college. And then students, if they take them, they're going to take them because they want a job. They want a career. So the businesses need to take responsibility. If they've got a skills gap here, then they have to be prepared to hire and they have to be prepared to invest in those people.
Coming back to what you said earlier about mentoring, John, I think that is really important, or let's call it internal consultancy. Why do I believe that's important? If you get to go beyond your primary job, let's say you're a DBA, and you're able to build a bond with the developers in such a way that you have a very close cooperation, then you have a few advantages. First of all, the advantage is you have an opening to, retain the knowledge that you as a DBA have by injecting it in your developers. That's one thing. So, when it comes to new application features, you can help them. Second, you have a unique opportunity to start, building a quality gate there, because you get involved in the design process really, really early. Which means, again, for the DBA, that he has less time to spend on fixing things after the fact. And third, if that is the case, then all of a sudden that DBA gets a lot of time to do the really sexy stuff, the things that really make him look like the hero, like, for instance, cutting the cost of an application by 50%. And what that does is it creates job satisfaction. If you're satisfied in your job, if your job is entertaining, it's something that you really like to do every day, that'll make you stay, doesn't it?
It does. And the thing is, heart of what you're talking about is that you're growing your influence on other people, and probably you're growing your own persona in that business and being seen to be an influence. So it's a great way of growing your opportunity. So you're actually broadening out beyond just, straight technical knowledge. You're broadening out into business knowledge and application knowledge. And the other thing you touched on there as well is by actively engaging in the developers at the early stage, they're more likely to listen to you, because what they don't like is you coming to them afterwards, giving them a list of work to do. And in this day and age, that doesn't work, because applications are coming ultimately whether they're ready or not, because the business needs them. So getting in at the front end and being the upmarket DBA is the right thing to do. And certainly good from a career development viewpoint. You're growing your professional skills and branching out. And you may find some new opportunities in the business area, the application area, which you might enjoy, or you might just decide to stay in your pure technical career path.
Excellent. John and Toine, thank you so much for being a part of this discussion. Very glad to have you. I know I picked up a lot of insight from that, and I know the audience will as well. On the screen, you'll see a QR code that'll link you to Triton Consulting and John's consulting services there, should you be interested in that, as well as a way to reach Toine and I on LinkedIn. With that being said, really appreciate you viewing the video. Until next time.